Hi everyone, this is Shay from Mr. Amazing. What immediately prompted me to make this video was another video that I'd just seen. The creator had posted a video about Marcus Aurelius, and I'd seen this video in my feed for about a week and a half now, and what finally got me to watch it now was the fact that this guy had put out another video that was in my feed, and that seemed a bit more appealing, and this second video now on screen was about psychedelics. It was about ether, and I thought, that's really interesting, so clicked it, and then I scrolled through the guy's video feed and see that he has this other video about Marcus Aurelius that has also been recommended to me quite a few times, and so I got the idea, well, YouTube is promoting him right now, he must be doing something right, and this got me thinking the idea of, well, what is it to do something right online? This harkened back to a whole bunch of other things I've been thinking about, in part because this is a whole thing that people are strategizing about every single day, and what fascinates me about it is the fact that in this guy's comments even, he is quite a divisive character. He is not saying anything that is really that divisive, verbally anyway, but he's doing things that are extraordinarily divisive. Namely, he's using AI art, likely from Mid-Journey, and so one of the top comments right now from one of the videos I watched is, I wonder whose Mid-Journey art style you stole to get this type of style. I read that and I think, damn, that's punchy as hell. So here's a guy, likely, who's just trying to make his own material and getting kicked in the balls for it verbally. But I also understand, because this is still a contested issue, and as far as we know, the way AI is going to affect artists is quite horrible. So this is a whole thing that has to be adjudicated and spoken about before you can even begin to justify the choice, because until you've made it public and addressed yourself to public reason that this is even a viable choice, then you are actively divisive. So all this has led me to the whole series of thoughts that I want to ground in the idea of social evolution. What I want to say is two things. First, I've just completed my undergraduate and master's theses on the philosopher John Dewey. Now, Dewey is a philosopher of evolution in a totally naturalized sense. So there's a very big confusion that we can levy towards Darwin and his latter-day followers, that evolution is a transcendental phenomenon, namely it's one in which something enters ex ante into the given world and adjusts it to some pre-given end. That's not true. That's not true of what Darwin says. If we naturalize evolution and we make it immanent to society itself, we mean then that society is always changing. And not in the very obvious sense that things are always changing, but that even what we take for granted as given in our memories, in our minds, in our practices is changing. Now, the existence of AI art is one such example of this. A whole guy right now is founding his entire YouTube existence on the visuals that are afforded to him by a technological medium that didn't even exist 2 years ago. That is evolution in its strongest and firmest social sense. Because what we now have is a niche for a certain type of creativity that simply did not exist years prior. And as a consequence, what it is to take action with respect to creating video, what it is to use AI, is something totally different from what it was 2 years. There's something troubling about that to me, because with Dewey, we can say something like, this is an experimental action. In fact, all evolution begins as an experiment. We can consider the modification of genes that happens according to Mendelian genetic mishaps to be a kind of experiment. And the experiment is successful in proportion to the living and coming to fruition and reproduction of the organism. But of course, action is then a kind of experiment that evolves. It is successful in proportion to its own ability to reproduce itself and to enable further experiments still. This is at once a deeply naive and optimistic view, and yet one that should inspire a great deal of uncertainty and worry, because everything is at once an experiment. It is always trying something slightly new, always in the process of recomposing itself around conditions of certainty, and at the same time, uniquely and totally fragile. Everything is always changing in a deep sense. Not in the sense that, of course, everything is changing, but that there is a moment of difference and change in every single human action. A whole set of issues arises here, but I want to focus on two. First, what is interesting about this guy, and what has stimulated me to speak right now, is that he is engaging in a creative avenue that simply did not exist 2 years ago. It's a very obvious observation. But what is more interesting about it is he is dependent upon a technological medium that didn't exist 2 years ago to make this very kind of thing and to take part in creative activity. Now, this is creative in the traditional sense of he's creating something, but also creative in this more latent evolutionary sense of he is enabling the reproduction of a certain kind of action that is going to reproduce itself. And so there's a whole host of other video creators like this right now who are leveraging AI technology to this end. But this is thereby recomposing what it is to even be a content creator. We have suspected for a very long time that the landscape of content creation is going to change, in part because of AI technology, and that's very true. But the question of how it changes and what it changes to, of course, has yet to be answered. The point of AI is interesting for two reasons. First, The very fact of creation has changed from an assemblage of pre-created media that you often didn't really have to give credit for and that I didn't give credit for, to a, in part, artificial creation of new media that is in a latent space that's derived from training data, hundreds of thousands of millions, billions even, of pieces of training data. Where the first was not really an ethical quandary, the second really is, because nobody's getting paid, but then nobody was getting paid before either. And so there's something very strange about how the public has perceived the use of AI in video in that way. It's really not anything new, but because the economic situation is so troubling, it has become such. But then the second thing is there's a great misperception about what this technology is and does. And of course, the immediate fact is that a lot of people are getting screwed. What still troubles me about this and moralizing it as a statement, well, you should not use AI media in a video, is that you are, one, foreclosing a kind of creativity in the obvious sense. Two, you're foreclosing it in this evolutionary sense of people are going to keep doing it anyway, so either get on board or get left behind. And third, it's the wrong kind of demand. We should be using this stuff, but there should be some kind of union in place or something to demand that something like Stability AI or Midjourney properly remunerates the people they fucking stole from. The moralizing claim reduced to a simple proposition that somebody should simply not do something because a whole host of concomitant institutional factors have not complied is ludicrous. It doesn't make any damn sense. People are not institutions. But, of course, the moralizing claim is the preliminary for institutional action and for the injunction to create a union. So it's all very simultaneously constraining and yet exciting at the same time, because I feel I could make a good justification for using this kind of art for the reasons I've so far explicated, but I don't know. I find this to be a fascinating subject because we are in some ways at the forefront of the future of creativity in, again, this obvious sense and this evolutionary sense. What happens now is going to determine at least the next 10 years, and that is simultaneously both a very precarious and worrisome thing, and yet a very exciting one. The experiments we partake in now, in action, particularly in the scene of online creation, are going to determine the next generation of content creators in a way. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you found it thought-provoking. Please let me know what you think in the comments. I know this is a very contested issue at the moment. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day, night, whenever you're watching this. See you later. Thanks for watching.